September 29th, 1937. Today I have come to understand many of God's mysteries. I have come to know that Holy Communion remains in me until the next Holy Communion. A vivid and clearly felt presence of God continues in my soul. The awareness of this plunges me into deep recollection without the slightest effort on my part. My heart is a living tabernacle in which the living host is reserved. I have never sought God in some far-off place, but within myself. It is in the depths of my own being that I commune with my God. My God, despite all the graces, I long without cease to be eternally united with my God, and the better I know Him, the more ardently I desire Him. J.M.J. With longing I gaze into the starlit sky, to the sapphire of fathomless firmaments. There the pure heart leaps out to find you, O God, and yearns to be freed of the bonds of the flesh. With great longing I gaze upon you, my homeland. When will this my exile come to an end? O Jesus, such is the call of your bride, who suffers agony in her thirst for you. With longing I gaze at the footprints of the saints who crossed this wilderness on their way to the fatherland. They left me the example of their virtue and their counsels, and they say to me, "Patience, sister, soon the fetters will break." But my longing soul hears not these words. Ardently it yearns for its Lord and its God, and it understands not human language, because it is enamored of Him alone. My longing soul, wounded with love, forces its way through all created things, and unites itself with infinite eternity, with the Lord whom my heart has espoused. Allow my longing soul, O God, to be drowned in your divine threefold essence. Fill my desires, for which I humbly beg you, with a heart brimming with love's fire. With a heart brimming with love's fire. A certain person came to the door today and asked to be admitted as one of our students, but she could not be admitted. She was in great need of our house. During the conversation which I had with her, the passion of Jesus was renewed in me. When she had gone, I undertook one of the severest mortifications. Nevertheless, the next time I will not let such a soul get away. For 3 days I suffered much on her account. How much I regret that our institutions are so small and that they cannot accommodate a greater number of souls. My Jesus, you know how much I grieve over every straying sheep. O humility, lovely flower, I see how few souls possess you. Is it because you are so beautiful and at the same time so difficult to attain? Oh yes, it is both the one and the other. Even God takes great pleasure in her. Floodgates of heaven are open to a humble soul, and a sea of graces flows down upon her. Oh, how beautiful is a humble soul! From her heart, as from a censer, rises a varied and most pleasing fragrance which breaks through the skies and reaches God Himself, filling His most sacred heart with joy. God refuses nothing to such a soul. She is all-powerful and influences the destiny of the whole world. God raises such a soul up to His very throne, and the more she humbles herself, the more God stoops down to her, pursuing her with His graces, accompanying her at every moment with His omnipotence. Such a soul is most deeply united with God. O humility, strike deep roots in my whole being. O Virgin most pure, but also most humble, help me to attain deep humility. Now I understand why there are so few saints. It is because so few souls are deeply humble. Eternal love, depth of mercy, O triune holiness, yet one God, whose bosom is full of love for all, as a good Father, you scorn no one. O love of God, living fountain, pour yourself out upon us, yours unworthy creatures. May our misery not hold back the torrents of your love, for indeed there is no limit to your mercy. Jesus, I have noticed that you seem to be less concerned with me. Yes, my child, I am replacing myself with your spiritual director, Father Andres. He is taking care of you according to my will. Respect his every word as my own. He is the veil behind which I am hiding. Your director and I are one. His words are my words. When I make the way of the cross, I am deeply moved at the 12th station. Here I reflect on the omnipotence of God's mercy, which passed through the heart of Jesus. In this open wound of the heart of Jesus, I enclose all poor humans, and those individuals whom I love. As often as I make the way of the cross, From that fount of mercy issue the two rays, that is, the blood and water. With the immensity of their grace, they flood the whole world. When one is ill and weak, one must constantly make efforts to measure up to what others are doing as a matter of course. But even those matter-of-course things cannot always be managed. Nevertheless, thank you, Jesus, for everything, because it is not the greatness of the works, but the greatness of the effort that will be rewarded. What is done out of love is not small, O my Jesus, for your eyes see everything. I do not know why I feel so terribly unwell in the morning. I have to muster all my strength to get out of bed, sometimes even to the point of heroism. Thought of Holy Communion gives me back a little more strength, and so the day starts with a struggle and ends with a struggle. When I go take my rest, I feel like a soldier returning from the battlefield. You alone, my Lord and Master, know what this day has contained. Meditation. During meditation, the sister on a kneeler next to mine, keeps coughing and clearing her throat, sometimes without a break. It occurred to me once that I might take another place for the time of the meditation, because Mass had already been offered. But then I thought that if I did change my place, the sister would notice this and might feel hurt that I had moved away from her. So I decided to continue in prayer in my usual place, and to offer this act of patience to God. Toward the end of the meditation, my soul was flooded with God's consolation, and this to the limit of what my heart could bear. And the Lord gave me to know that if I had moved away from that sister, I would have moved away also from those graces that flowed into my soul. Jesus came to the main entrance today under the guise of a poor young man. This young man, emaciated, barefoot and bareheaded, and with his clothes in tatters, was frozen because the day was cold and rainy for something hot to eat. So I went to the kitchen but found nothing there for the poor. But after searching around for some time, I succeeded in finding some soup, which I reheated and into which I crumbled some bread, and I gave it to the poor young man, who ate it. As I was taking the bowl from him, he gave me to know that he was the Lord of heaven and earth. When I saw him as he was, he vanished from my sight. When I went back in and reflected on what had happened at the gate, I heard these words in my soul: My daughter, the blessings of the poor who bless me as they leave this gate have reached my ears. And your compassion within the bonds of obedience has pleased me, and this is why I came down from my throne to taste the fruits of your mercy. O my Jesus, now everything is clear to me, and I understand all that has just happened. I somehow felt and asked myself what sort of a poor man is this who radiates such modesty. From that moment on, there was stirred up in my heart an even purer love toward the poor and the needy. Oh, how happy I am that my superiors have given me such a task. I understood that mercy is manifold. One can do good always and everywhere and at all times. An ardent love of God sees all around itself constant opportunities to share itself through deed, word, and prayer. Now I understand the words which you spoke to me, O Lord, some time ago. Oh, what great efforts I must make to carry out my duties well when my health is so poor. This will be known to you alone, O Christ. In times of interior desolation, I do not lose my peace, because I know that God never abandons a soul, except perhaps only when the soul itself breaks the bond of love by its unfaithfulness. However, all creatures without exception depend on the Lord and are maintained by his omnipotence. Some are under the rule of love, others under the rule of justice. It depends on us under which rule we want to live, because no one is refused the aid of sufficient grace. I am not frightened at all by my apparent abandonment. I examine myself more profoundly to discover whether this is due to my faults. If this is not the case, then may the Lord be blessed. October 1st, 1937. Daughter, I need sacrifice lovingly accomplished, because that alone has meaning for me. Enormous indeed are the debts of the world which are due to me. Your souls can pay them by their sacrifice, exercising mercy in spirit. I understand your words, Lord, and the magnitude of the mercy that ought to shine in my soul. Jesus, I know, my daughter, that you understand it and that you do everything within your power, but write this for the many souls who are often worried because they do not have the material means with which to carry out an act of mercy. Yet spiritual mercy, which requires neither permission nor storehouses, is much more meritorious and is within the grasp of every soul. If a soul does not exercise mercy somehow or other, it will not obtain my mercy on the day of judgment. Oh, if only souls knew how to gather eternal treasure for themselves, they would not be judged, for they would forestall my judgment with their mercy.